Hello world, Monte Coleman IS coaching. Have you ever had a relationship with somebody and felt like they constantly violated? Have you ever made hired a contract to do work and they didn't complete it on time? They kind of did everything at their own pace, and you felt like almost like you was working for them. Have you ever been in a supervisory position at the job and felt like your staff just did whatever they want? Well, the video today is going to deal with that. So I encourage you to listen and understand the key to gaining control or some type of order in your projects, in your contracts, and your responsibilities. Check it out. Hello world, Monte Coleman IES coaching coming through. I think number 7 on the Harsh Truth series, and this is entitled "The Importance of Giving Out Consequences." I know that sounds kind of domineering and authoritarian, but consequences are something as simple as if you break my trust, I'm no longer your friend. It's a consequence. If you steal from me, I'll call the police. If you speed, you get a traffic ticket. If you show up late for work too many times, you can get terminated or suspended. So we all deal with consequences. But I think sometimes, especially those of us who try to be kind-hearted, we struggle in dishing out consequences. We feel guilty. We feel hesitant. We feel like we're the bad guy. I even hear people say, I don't want to be the bad guy. Understand that a true consequence does not make the enforcer the bad guy, because a consequence is a result of the other person's actions. Meaning that when you enforce a consequence, a known consequence on a person, you're not the bad guy. You're just keeping your part of the agreement. Which brings me to my first point with consequences. Consequences should be clearly defined in any relationship, whether it's personal, professional, or business, or whether it's a romantic relationship, or it's a job, or it's an entrepreneur or contract-based relationship. Consequences should be clearly defined at the onset of any agreement. As a parent, your kids should understand, or your children, should understand your boundaries, the rules, the regulations, and the consequences that come with violating them. As an employer, you should have clearly written out in your employee handbook, in their job description, the duties, responsibilities, and consequences if they violate them. In a marriage, you should have had a discussion as mates as to what are your boundaries and what are the consequences that you feel that are necessary if your boundaries are violated. Consequences are the key to any communal effort, meaning that anytime you have to work with others other than yourself in any type of communal relationship, you are going to need to have rules, boundaries, and consequences for crossing those boundaries. Without proper consequences, there is no order, there is no growth, there is no goal acquisition, there is no success. Boundaries help to maintain order. Consequences help to maintain order and help to establish boundaries. Consequences bridge motivation and values when they start to differ. Meaning, usually when you set out on an agreement with someone, or make a contract, or taking a job, at the onset of the agreement, values and motivations are aligned. When you first get married, you're aligned when you're trying to make a commitment. When you first take a job, you want to be a good employee and be employed. When you first sign a contract, you want to fulfill the contract and have good standing as a businessman and pay out what's due at the end. What consequences do is if that deviates. So I'll give you an example of a deviation. You contract with me to teach you martial arts. My contract said I have to train you on Saturday at 9 a.m. in the morning. In our contract, it stipulates if I cancel a class, you get a reimbursement and a free class. Now, if I feel like I want to sleep in one Saturday because I don't feel like getting up, I don't want to do the class. That's where we have separated in our value. My value now is in sleep versus giving you the service. If there is no consequence, and I feel strongly that I want to reap the value of not coming, there's no barrier or nothing keep me from going with that particular move. But if it's in our contract that I'm going to lose money, that may be the motivation that bridges me back to fulfilling my obligation, because I may not want to fulfill my obligation, but I don't want to deal with the consequence even more. And I know that sounds bad, but the nature of humanity, basic psychology, is the acquisition of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. So a consequence is a form of pain, whether it's financial, social, reputation, or psychological, that makes the person want to adhere to those standards they have agreed to practice. So without consequences, when I no longer feel like fulfilling my obligation towards you, or vice versa, there's nothing stopping me. But with consequences, the consequences supersede whatever pleasure I may get out of violating my agreement. So understand, as a parent, when you're dealing with your children, the consequences for them not following the household rules should be greater than the joy they get from breaking the household rules. As an employer, the consequence of not following the job description should be more irritating than the struggle of sticking to the job description. So what I'm saying is, whenever doing any type of communal relationship, it is important to establish and enforce consequences, because it helps to maintain order, helps to maintain flow, and it helps to get the optimal outcomes in any communal relationship or investment. Thank you.